Hello there, and welcome to today's recap of the Manhwa series titled Immortal Swordsman in a Reverse World. In a nutshell, it's a story based upon a cultivator who, by chance, got teleported to some twisted alternate reality where the roles of men and women have been swapped somehow. Long story short, the women in this strange new world are way stronger and smarter and are therefore the pillars of society. On the flip side, the men here are mere wussies who blush and cry 24/7. These dudes are no doubt a disgrace to society as far as our protagonist, Chu Qing, is concerned. Anyhow, to slip away from this disgusting world and travel back to his original homeland, Chu Qing's got no choice but to cultivate even harder. Curious about what happens next? Well, no doubt we're going to elaborate on the story in detail, but before that happens, destroy that like button and subscribe button. Anyway, in the initial scene, Chu Qing awakens to discover some heavenly beauty lying on top of him. The unknown girl is surely in the mood to commit the forbidden deed then and there. The flabbergasted Chu Qing jumps out of bed though, as he's quite willing to graduate from virginity status at the hands of a mysterious beauty. Meanwhile, he recalls how he accidentally entered the immortal realm some 300 years ago and strived hard to become an elite cultivator. Regrettably, he coincidentally entered the Hall of Time and Space when about to ascend to a higher level. As a result, Chu Qing miraculously swooshed back in time, ending up as a 17-year-old high school student yet again. All things considered, indulging in sex is surely the last thing Chu Qing's chaotic mind craves presently. Unfortunately, the girl, who reveals her name as Ye Shenxi, is quite the badass type, and therefore isn't willing to let her prey escape that easily. Even so, a former immortal swordsman isn't to be taken lightly, as Chu Qing soon breaks free from her bondage and runs away ASAP. Once outside, Chu Qing becomes confused upon witnessing how all his fellow males are acting like little damsels in distress 24/7. Meanwhile, the women seem more active, stronger, and bolder than ever. Something weird is at play here. Upon doing a little research, Chu Qing learns how this world's gender roles are pretty messed up actually. It happened back in ancient times when some sort of cataclysm altered women's physiques, making them stronger and smarter than men. This led to the concept of women being superior to men. Ever since then, it's considered normal for girls to actively approach and flirt with men and sometimes even harass them. Later, Chu Qing starts feeling a sense of dread as he heads back home. As expected, his father's busy doing home chores like a housewife of sorts. Meanwhile, the money-making and business-related stuff is his mom's job. Finally, much to his surprise, his sister Chu Xiao is a perverted girl who loves harassing boys online. In short, this world couldn't get any more feminist than it already is. Chu Qing finally slips away in disgust after witnessing his father acting all feminine and coquettish in front of his mother. Back in his room, dude starts cultivating like crazy. After all, becoming strong enough to reopen the Hall of Time and Space is the only chance he has of escaping this wretched hellhole ASAP and going back to his homeworld. His training is soon interrupted midway after receiving a call from his sister. Turns out, Chu Xiao's being held hostage by a couple of punk girls for some reason. Her brother, Chu Qing, of course instantly rushes to her rescue. Once there, the goons immediately agree to let his sister leave. There is a catch though, since their leader develops a crush on Chu Qing's handsome face and wishes to spend a night with him. Finally, losing his cool, Chu Qing heavily smacks the cocky female's face to shut her up. Later, he uses all three goons as his punching bags for a while. Pretty soon, all three opponents are groaning heavily in pain. The infuriated leader pulls out a gun just then and takes aim. Interestingly, Ye Shenxi arrives just before the enemy is about to ram those bullets home. She instantly has her bodyguards take care of the blue-haired leader as a gesture of goodwill towards Chu Qing. The arrogant-looking girl then even offers to let Chu Qing be her 36th boyfriend. Our man here, of course, isn't any sugar baby who's willing to become a cheeky girl's pet. Chu Qing thus declines her offer and later even challenges her to a hand wrestling duel. The agreement, of course, is for Ye Shenxi to quit bothering him so long as he beats her. In case not, well, Chu Qing will be left with no choice but to become a pet boy after all. Anyway, the match soon begins, and Chu Qing realizes how extraordinary Ye Shenxi's strength is. Even so, he's no ordinary man either, and thus can defeat her easily. Everyone present is awed by Chu Qing's stellar display of strength and starts wondering, when did any man get so strong? Later on the way back home, Chu Xiao questions why her younger brother refuses to marry Ye Shenxi, who's the heiress of a rich family in their city. What's more, she will receive tons of benefits in case the Ye family's future heiress becomes her sister-in-law. What's funny is how Chu Xiao soon shuts her trap after receiving a death stare from her infuriated younger brother. The next day, Chu Qing is in an extremely sullen mood, thanks to this disgusting world he somehow got trapped in. As it happens, his female classmates are acting in all sorts of boyish ways. Meanwhile, the males themselves are busy applying face powder and whatnot to make themselves look prettier. Ugh, to be honest. Chu Qing soon teaches a lesson to some ugly female classmates who dare to hit on him. Later on, Ye Shenxi's younger brother, Ye Mao, arrives and begs for his forgiveness. Turns out it was he who suggested that his sister give Chu Qing a ride back home yesterday. Back then, the poor fellow hadn't even dreamed of how perverted his sister truly was. Long story short, Ye Shenxi drugged Chu Qing on the way back home and later took him back to her place for the sake of some fun. Chu Qing adopts a let bygones be bygones attitude here and simply shrugs off his friend's negligence. Speak of the devil, Ye Shenxi arrives just then and offers to give Chu Qing a ride back home. Guess what? This wild beauty has now decided to pursue Chu Qing fair and square. Heck, she's even willing to lend his family business a helping hand as a friendly gesture. Astonishingly, some random car deliberately rams into their own just then. With his manly instincts, Chu Qing instantly leaps over to protect Ye Shenxi, sitting next to him. The guy pays for his protective tendencies by receiving the brunt of the impact and is injured heavily as a result. Even so, Chu Qing isn't willing to back down the least bit and fights side by side with Ye Shenxi to eliminate all incoming foes. Just when they think it's over, Ye Shenxi receives news about her mother facing an assault and getting injured in the same way she did. The two soon rush to the Ye family as a result. Once inside, Chu Qing proclaims himself a doctor and offers to help cure his friend's mother, Ye Qingmei. As expected, Ye Qingmei is skeptical of Chu Qing's abilities at first, not believing how a mere man, and also one so young, can truly be an accomplished doctor. She gives in soon though once Ye Shenxi speaks in her boyfriend's favor. Chu Qing thus examines his potential mother-in-law's injuries and soon starts inserting his healing energy to help cure those wounds. Ye Qingmei soon starts feeling a lot better and is thus convinced of Chu Qing's abilities. On the following day at school, Chu Qing witnesses a girl named Tang Jian playing basketball all by herself. Here, dude starts reminiscing about how Tang Jian used to be the love of his life back in the original world. Unfortunately, Tang Jian from this world doesn't even know him. What's more, she's like a completely different person from his memories of her. Unexpectedly, the girl calls out to him and even challenges him to a basketball match just when he's ready to quit. Later, during the match, Chu Qing proves himself as way more agile than Tang Jian and can beat her easily as a result. Despite having been impressed by him, Tang Jian refuses to accompany Chu Qing on a date, claiming that he's still too weak for her taste. Later that night, Chu Qing is approached as well as threatened by an admirer of Tang Jian named Li Yuwei. The two are bound by a marriage contract somehow, and Tang Jian might end up becoming the wife of this idiot from the Li family after all. All things considered, Chu Qing beats the hell out of his love rival as well as his couple of bodyguards. Later, he dials a private investigator named Hua Hua to fetch him more intel regarding Tang family's relationship with the Li family, and most importantly, how his beloved Tang Jian got caught up in the crossfire. Anyways, he meets up with Hua Hua pretty soon, who surprisingly turns out to be an underage-looking lowly. Back to the main topic. Chu Qing discovers how Tang family is known for their prowess with alchemy and elixir-type stuff. Sadly, they suffered from financial instability previously and thus gave consent to marry Tang Jian with Li Yuwei in return for receiving alms from the Li family. That sums up the business-related discussion, and so the two soon stroll over for dinner at some nearby restaurant. Guess what? The girl from this world never shies away from downing a heckload of wine bottles. The Lolita girl becomes intoxicated pretty soon as a result, and starts complaining about how she's struggling to look for a mate. After all, being pretty alone is never enough to get you a husband in this messed up world. Rather, girls are expected to become highly independent, run their businesses, and own their cars, mansion, and whatnot before finally sealing the deal with a handsome-looking husband. Anyways, Chu Qing carries the dead drunk girl back to her apartment. Once there, he's about to leave after tucking her into bed, but decides otherwise when she requests for him to stay. Nothing weird happens between them, in case you're curious, by the way. Instead, Dude simply continues pondering various side hustles to help him earn more money and fulfill his growing needs. The next day, Chu Qing finally finishes curing Aunt Ye Qing Mei. Luckily, the poison extracting process even helps boost his cultivation, allowing him to break through and regain his spiritual body once back in his room. Up next, Chu Qing decides to utilize the aura from heaven and earth as ingredients for making tons of spiritual stones. Said stones can greatly boost one's cultivation and will thus fetch him tons of money to meet his financial needs. Last but not least, Chu Qing even utilizes a secret technique to summon his yellowish sword out of thin air. What's funny is how, in his attempt to hide the sword from his sister, poor fellow ends up being labeled as a pervert who's busy wanking in secrecy. Afterward, Chu Qing pays a visit to the nearby auction house and offers to sell his spiritual stones in return for a shed load of money. The auction house's successor, named Zhao Yu, is fascinated by the stones and indeed promises to buy them from Chu Qing in bulk quantities. Later on the way back home, an assassin unexpectedly ambushes our protagonist and tries to assassinate him. Unfortunately for him, Chu Qing ain't no helpless crybaby and soon forces the enemy onto his knees using his superior strength and techniques. Then, upon learning that Li Yu Wei was the mastermind behind this attack, he simply executes the assassin and leaves. Regrettably, Chu Qing starts feeling dizzy soon after as a result of having overexerted himself. Not being able to think clearly, our man here simply wobbles to Hua Hua's house and starts kissing her the moment she opens the door. Interestingly, Hua Hua doesn't mind at all and even prompts Chu Qing to continue with the deed. Chu Qing doesn't hesitate the least bit after receiving the go-ahead signal and soon claims Hua Hua as his first ever woman. A while later, he starts pondering about how leaving this world won't be as simple as he thought. After all, the longer he stays here, the more affection he's going to end up developing for the residents of this world. Chu Qing finally concludes with how conquering this world is the only way he can continue keeping his beloved friends and family members by his side forever. On the following day, Tang Xian boldly asks Chu Qing out for a lunch date together. The two are busy sharing cute moments when a couple of strangers launch fatal attacks against Tang Xian out of the blue. Fortunately, Chu Qing reacts in time and thrashes a bowl of boiling noodles onto the assaulter's face. He then proceeds to attack the remaining opponent. Despite having made quick work of both enemies, the poor guy still ends up getting stabbed in the gut. Meanwhile, Tang Xian is indeed very grateful to Chu Qing for having saved her life. Chu Qing simply shrugs it off as nothing, and later even promises to help revive her family's medicinal business. The conversation is interrupted once Chu Qing realizes that the spirit mark he left on Ye Qianxi has been lifted. This could only mean that his cheeky girlfriend's in a hell of a lot of trouble. Chu Qing thus hitches a ride from Zhai Mu, while also having Hua Hua locate Ye Qianxi through GPS. Soon he tracks down and intercepts the enemy van and then pulls out his sword without saying a word. Astonishingly, two spirit cultivators, the same as him, hop out of the vehicle soon and introduce themselves as members of the Chan Shen sect. Chu Qing doesn't pay any heed to their identities and even starts to mock them for being rookie cultivators. This infuriates the opponents, who soon lunge at Chu Qing, hoping to annihilate him out of existence. Instead, as expected, our OP main character sends the two off to go and greet King Yema in their afterlife. Ye Qianxi wakes up just then and becomes utterly shocked to see corpses all around her, especially the two dead seniors, since she failed to land a single punch on either of them. Once again, it's revealed how the Li family's the troublemaker here, as they've been bothering the Ye family for quite a while now. Anyways, the two then head back to the Ye family mansion, where an urgent meeting is ongoing between Ye Qianxi's mother and the other senior figures of the Ye family. A blondie there isn't too happy about some random commoner, especially a man, intruding on their family's secret meeting. Chu Qing simply states that he's just there for the sake of business. First, he offers to sell a heckload of spiritual stones to the Ye family at a discounted price. Next, he even offers to make protective talismans as well as strength-boosting elixirs for each Ye family member. His mother, of course, is to lend Ye Qianxi's family a helping hand, as she's already become very dear to him. Later that night, Chu Qing's greeted by his fat aunt, Chu Qing, upon reaching back home. The aunt happens to be a snob as she announces how the Chu family, which is quite influential in the capital, has decided to sell off Chu Qing as a bride to a stranger for the sake of maintaining their social status. This greatly irritates Chu Qing, who later rings up Ye Qianxi's cell phone, asking her to do him a favor by cutting off one of his fat aunt's legs. Even so, Chu Qing's worried that members of his mom's Xu family might come looking for trouble later, and so he spends the night crafting several protective artifacts for his family members as well. The next day in class, Chu Qing's chubby friend Lin Dong recommends he participate in the basketball event since he even beat Tang Xian before. Chu Qing agrees since it will help him make some lovely high school memories, etc. Soon enough, another pretty classmate named Ling Weiner comes looking for him, asking Chu Qing to attend a private party being hosted by their middle school friends. Chu Qing once again gives his consent as a gathering with past friends might be fun indeed. Later, Chu Qing finally finishes making a bag full of sword shard protective talismans and soon hands them over to Ye Qianxi in return for $1 million. If this continues, Chu Qing will be able to establish a business empire solely by leveraging the knowledge and techniques gained from the immortal world. Our cheerful dude thus celebrates by drinking together with Jia Yu late till midnight. Upon returning home, Chu Qing bumps into his sister, Chu Jiao, who's just as drunk as he is, and is trying to sneak in without being noticed by her parents. What's funny is how both start feeling dizzy and end up losing consciousness soon. Thankfully, Chu Qing awakens and stops Chu Jiao right before his dead drunk sister is about to kiss him senselessly. After such an experience, the dude swears an oath never to go overboard with the booze, ever again. On the following day, Chu Qing is busy shopping when he ends up bumping into his middle school classmate named Zhuo Buchun. Turns out, it's the same guy who's hosting the party Ling Weiner told him to attend just yesterday. Anyways, Zhuo Buchun soon becomes frustrated about learning how his crush, Ling Weiner, personally invited Chu Qing to the party he's gonna host. Later at the party, Chu Qing wins everyone's hearts through his ongoing and generous demeanor. This greatly annoys Zhuo Buchun, who's the host here and therefore can't stand his limelight being stolen by somebody else. Finally, the opportunity for Zhuo Buchun to shine arrives soon after the audience starts egging him on for playing piano. What's funny is how Chu Qing doesn't pay any attention and even belittles his abilities as a pianist later on. This infuriates Zhuo Buchun, who then challenges Chu Qing to a competition, with the loser's hands being at stake here. Chu Qing agrees and instantly starts playing a song from the immortal realm that mesmerizes the audience. Needless to say, Zhuo Buchun loses big time here, and is at risk of having both his hands cut off as a result. Thankfully, both Lin Weiner as well as Tang Xian intervene in time, pleading for Chu Qing to take matters lightly. Chu Qing, of course, listens to the beautiful women's suggestions and thus only trims away all of Zhuo Buchun's precious hair. Afterward, Chu Qing wishes to crash at Hua Hua's place for the night, or else his dad might notice the smell of alcohol on his clothes. Once there, though, he's surprised to see his girlfriend being bullied by her father. The man displays neither self-esteem nor even an ounce of dignity. Instead, the worthless scumbag is here to pester his daughter for her life savings so he can continue gambling the way he pleases. Chu Qing, of course, can't stand idly by in this situation and thus throws $5 million at the man's face. There's one catch, though, which is for Hua Hua's father to eliminate his family ties with his daughter and never bother her ever again, so long as he takes the money. Despite the scum agreeing to his offer, Chu Qing still blows away his ear as a warning. In such a way, the good-for-nothing jerk is bound to never come searching for his daughter for trouble ever again. On the following day, Hua Hua wakes up pretty motivated and even cooks breakfast for her lover. Chu Qing realizes that she's doing this out of gratitude towards him and also because of her fear of losing him. Dude, of course, claims that such formalities are unnecessary, and she should just be her authentic self when with him instead. Later at the basketball club, Chu Qing gives a medicinal formula to Tang Xian to help her family ride over their current economic instability. The cheerful Tang Xian thus declares how she's fallen in love with him, and even plants her lips on top of his as a reward. Later that night, Chu Qing's mother worriedly declares how his proximity to other girls might end up causing trouble for him soon. After all, they can't just turn a blind eye to that annoying arranged marriage thing. His mother then suggests that he work hard to enter the National University, which is indeed the empire's most prestigious educational institute. So long as he succeeds, even the Chu family won't dare take him lightly or force him to marry some rich girl for the sake of networking. Chu Qing promises to do his best before receiving a call from Jia Yu. Jia Yu simply reminds his forgetful friend that the long-awaited auction has already started by now. Once there, a random couple starts mocking Chu Qing for being a filthy commoner, with no right to attend such a luxurious occasion. Chu Qing, of course, isn't willing to take such heavy insults lying down, and therefore teaches the impudent woman a lesson. Zai Yu walks over just then, and bans the idiotic couple from ever stepping foot inside the auction house as punishment for irritating his friend. Ye Xianxi too arrives just then and drags Chu Qing away to an isolated room for business talk. Unfortunately, their lovebird session is interrupted midway by Jia Yu, who presents a list of all items being auctioned this time around. Chu Qing had previously been hoping to discover some unique material to help build a sheath for his sword. Regrettably, nothing of the sort is present on the list. Next, it's Ye Xianxi's turn to see if there's anything she fancies. Soon enough, her eyes start gleaming upon discovering a jar of ancient wine that can help immensely boost one's cultivation. Chu Qing, of course, doesn't care about the wine. However, what's funny is how the wine jar is carved out of the same material he wants to build his sword sheath with. However, it might be troublesome to snatch away the ancient wine with the measly amount of cash in his bank account. Chu Qing thus decides to wait and monitor the situation for a while. Meanwhile, Ye Xianxi doesn't seem to care about what's going on inside the auction house. Instead, the carefree girl continues to frolic around by drinking wine, etc. This annoys Chu Qing, who reprimands his girlfriend for being clueless about even her own family's internal issues. Heck, even her mother hesitates from ever revealing any family secrets to her spoiled daughter. If this continues, Ye Xianxi might soon end up dying without even knowing the name of her enemy. Anyways, Ye Xianxi intently listens to her boyfriend's rant for a while. However, soon she gets bored of his speech and claims that he isn't the least bit cute when acting like an old sage. Finally, Chu Qing quits once the auction sale is over. Jia Yu is of the mind to hang around and chill for a while. Alas, Chu Qing's got plenty of school assignments on his plate and thus can't afford to keep wasting any time. However, dude ends up sensing a horrific aura on his way back home. Guess what? It's the party who had won the ancient wine back at the auction. Interestingly, an officer from the Jianwu department intends to exterminate them all and steal the treasure. The Jianwu department consists of lethal elites, specifically trained to keep all other civilian martial artists under the government's control. Anyways, the purple-robed stranger soon massacres all others present and steals the ancient wine for herself. Sadly enough, the highly perceptive woman discovers Chu Qing just then and attempts to annihilate him as well to keep her secret. Chu Qing, of course, ain't some fish on a chopping block either, and soon lands several hits on his opponent. Regrettably, the female pulls out a lethal gun just then and fires a highly energized bullet towards Chu Qing. The woman soon lowers her guard after the bullet hits its mark. Bad mistake there, as Chu Qing soon pierces her back with his sword in the blink of an eye. Here we see how dude himself is in pretty bad shape after getting hit by that mysterious bullet. Hence, Chu Qing starts meditating right then and there to prevent the bullet's murderous aura from infiltrating his body any further. Up next, the guy barely manages to make his way to Hua Hua's apartment. telling her to cut away the rotten flesh from his wound. Of course, the kind-hearted Hua Hua isn't well suited for this kind of job, especially when her dear lover is the patient. Hua Hua therefore rings up Ye Xianxi's cell phone, telling her to come over ASAP. Once there, Ye Xianxi too is heartbroken after witnessing her beloved boyfriend's pathetic condition. However, she doesn't display such emotions on her face and simply starts tending to his wounds ASAP. Later on though, Ye Xianxi does give Chu Qing the death stare for having an affair with Hua Hua behind her back. What bothers her even more is how he chose to bang on Hua Hua's door in his moment of need instead of hers. Chu Qing defends himself by claiming how, same as this world's women, he too has a right to keep multiple lovers all for himself. Also, in case such a tendency is a deal-breaker for her, then Ye Qianxi might as well abandon him and look for another man whenever she desires. Although still angry, Ye Qianxi finally gives in and diverts the topic to the mysterious bullet itself. Turns out such bullets are referred to as Wang Chuan bullets and are lethal weapons, referred to as the bane of all martial artists. Thankfully, each bullet is quite expensive and therefore the Jianwu department can only produce a limited number each time. Ye Xianxi further reveals how the Jianwu professionals are ranked from red, yellow, green, blue, and purple, with purple being the lowest rank among them all. Similarly, the martial artists in this world are ranked from Ru, Wu, Ji, Hua, and Shen, with each of them containing 5 minor stages in total. Ye Qianxi herself is at the peak of the first stage of Ru presently. With the discussion over, Chu Qing attempts to evacuate the place and go back home. This worries both girls as his wounds are still pretty fresh. However, Chu Qing then reveals how his injuries have miraculously healed in such little time, thanks to his secret healing technique. He then leaves while both girls are still shell-shocked at his insane recovery speed. Before leaving herself as well, Ye Qianxi throws a cold stare toward Hua Hua, who's already started to sweat from nervousness by this time. Seems like the vengeful girl still hasn't forgiven Hua Hua for sleeping with her man. The next day at school, Chu Qing gets in trouble with his teacher for sleeping through class. Long story short, he ends up being charged with entering the top 10 in the upcoming exam, instead of his classmate Song Xiaoran. This incident results in rumors spreading about Chu Qing being in love with the introverted girl Song Xiaoran. One of Tang Xian's lackeys gets wind of the news as well, and so they'll corner Song Xiaoran, hoping to teach the pitiful girl a lesson. Later on, in privacy, Tang Xian reveals how the medicinal formula he gave her earlier was proven as a formidable poison rather than enhancing one's cultivation. This confuses Chu Qing, since the recipe he shared was one for boosting an individual's cultivation. Even so, the poison's still quite useful, and Tang Xian, therefore, pays him 200 million bucks in return. This thrills Chu Qing as the guy starts imagining how much more he can make just by selling off the innumerable elixir formulas saved in his head. Last but not least, Tang Xian requests her boyfriend to stop cultivating any further, since she doesn't wish for her future man to be unable to reproduce. The statement serves as a lightning strike for Chu Qing, who starts wondering whether practicing martial arts in their weird world forces men to become infertile or something. Later that afternoon, Chu Qing attempts to teach Ye Xianxi how to deal with a Wang Chuan bullet, but ends up harming her instead. Guess what? The reason why that formula turned out to be poison, and also why he can't teach Ye Qianxi any cultivation methods at present, is thanks to the irregular meridians of women from this world. Unfortunately, Chu Qing will need to get his hands on some ancient martial arts books to further investigate this issue. Chu Qing drops the issue for a while, though after healing Ye Qianxi, he instantly heads back into his room. Once all alone, Chu Qing instantly starts refining a scabbard for his sword. With this, it won't take long for his sword to heal up automatically every time it takes on any damage. Next, he also refines a mask for himself to hide his identity when running secret errands for himself. Soon after, Ye Qianxi rings up his cell phone, inviting him for dinner together with her mom. Once there, Chu Qing requests to take a peek at the Ye family's cultivation manual, in return for the elixirs he made for them. Ye Qing instantly refuses though, claiming that it's forbidden to reveal their family's techniques to outsiders. The only way for Chu Qing to fulfill his desire is by marrying into the Ye family first. Chu Qing, who comes from a world dominated by men, would of course rather die than be married off to some other girl, even if he loves her dearly. Unfortunately, here in this world, it's been a tradition since ancient times for men to adopt their wife's surname after marriage. That said, it surely won't be easy for Chu Qing to navigate the issue of marriage with his many girlfriends. Last but not least, Ye Qing also advises Chu Qing to abandon his martial arts career since he's a man. Chu Qing's curiosity finally gets the better of him here, and he thus visits his good friend Xia Yu. Once there, the dude questions why it's such an unpopular practice for men to practice martial arts in this alternate world. Xia Yu therefore reveals that although it's not forbidden for men to practice martial arts, they'll have to pay a heavy price for doing so. In short, men must first be castrated, or simply put, have their genitals removed, before finally becoming able to reach the peak of martial arts in this world. Hearing such news is akin to being struck by thunder for poor Chu Qing, who can't even imagine the possibility of having his dear elephant chopped off. On the following day at school, Chu Qing falls prey to Ye Qianxi's trap by mistakenly drinking a drink from her hands. Said drink has been drugged, the same as before. And so our protagonist ends up being kidnapped yet another time. There's no last-minute escape for Chu Qing this time around. Meanwhile, Ye Qianxi finally achieves her heart's desire and forever becomes Chu Qing's woman in the process. Afterward, she even gives the Ye family's martial arts book to him as a gift. Only by studying the book does Chu Qing realize how the women's physique is indeed strange in this world. As a result, they can absorb much more spiritual energy than men, and can thus practice ancient martial arts with ease. The same can't be said for the pitiful men, who don't have the corresponding system for absorbing such excess spiritual energy. As a result, unless they chop off their genitals, there's practically no other way for them to reach the peak of the martial arts world. Anyways, the two soon call it a night. Earlier, the next day at school, Tang Xian sends word to Chu Qing, asking him to come over for a chat. As expected, she somehow got wind of his last night's affair with Ye Qianxi, and is greatly upset about it. After all, as far as she's concerned, Chu Qing is being shameless about sleeping with some other girl despite having a girlfriend. Same as he did with Ye Qianxi. Chu Qing yet again states how he's the way he is, and that Tang Xian can leave in case she desires to do so. This finally calms her down, and she offers him a deal. It's quite simple. So long as Chu Qing beats her at an arm wrestling competition, he can continue to frolic around with other girls. However, his defeat shall spell doom for Ye Qianxi, since Tang Xian is dying to cut off the hands of her love rival. Chu Qing, of course, agrees and, as expected, beats Tang Xian in the arm wrestling competition soon enough. This surprises the girl, who questions why he's still cultivating despite her sincere warning to stop doing so from a couple of days ago. Chu Qing doesn't answer her and simply walks away. Once back at home, he comes face to face with a fat girl named Gong Yue. Turns out she's the fiancée his distant grandmother, Shu Anlan, chose for him. Chu Qing, of course, doesn't care about such a useless agreement and simply tears apart the marriage contract. Even so, Gong Yue doesn't change her stance and instead reminds him of what will become of his parents in case he refuses to marry her. This further enrages Chu Qing, who finally takes the argument outside. Next, Chu Qing attempts to beat the fat girl into submission and force her to buzz off forever. However, the girl is surprisingly tougher than he thought, even more so than Tang Xian herself. Left with no other choice, dude finally pulls out his sword, hoping to slash her in two. Alas, Chu Qing fails to even put a scratch on her. Next, he claims that he will surely enter the National University to rid himself of this stupid marriage. Gong Yue throws a fit of laughter just then and starts making fun of him. The fatty claims it's next to impossible for men to get admitted into the country's most prestigious university. The next day at school, Chu Qing buries himself in his books since he just can't wait to join the National University, and later slap his acceptance letter on Gong Yue's smug face. A random kid flings his book away just then, claiming that Chu Qing must attend a basketball match soon. This infuriates our man here, who proceeds to beat the hell out of his annoying classmate. A while later, Zhuo Buchun walks over and reveals how, as student council president, Tang Xian herself is the one who wishes for Chu Qing to go and play basketball. Being unable to refuse his girlfriend, Chu Qing simply agrees to participate in the upcoming match and heads over to the basketball court shortly afterward. Once there, that annoying kid whom Chu Qing beat up before now offers him a seat. Guess what? The troublemaker has put glue all over the seat as revenge for the humiliation he received earlier. Guess what? The troublemaker has put glue all over the seat as revenge for the humiliation he received earlier. What's funny is how Tang Xian ends up sitting on that chair instead of Chu Qing. This makes Dude break into a fit of laughter, and he even goes so far as to tease his girlfriend about the color of her undergarments. Tang Xian soon starts cursing her boyfriend for not warning her about the glue earlier. The next moment, though, she simply covers her behind with her jacket. This doesn't sit well with Chu Qing, though, who hates it when other guys stare at his girlfriend. Tang Xian, however, quite enjoys the sight of Chu Qing becoming jealous because of her. As a result, she refuses to wear his jacket just for the sake of annoying him. Later during the match, the opponent's team seems to be losing at first. However, their leader then makes a bet with Tang Xian. In case she wins the bet, then Chu Qing will have to become her lover for an entire month or so. Tang Xian, of course, agrees to it since she's confident of her victory. However, soon after she accepts the challenge, the opponent team starts showing its true colors by displaying exceptional physical agility. If this goes on, then Tang Xian's team will surely be left in the dust in a matter of minutes. What's even worse is how she'll have to hand over her boyfriend to somebody else. That said, Tang Xian is left with no other choice but to beg Chu Qing to step in and win the match. Our protagonist, of course, isn't willing to let such a good opportunity to tease his girlfriend slip by. Heck, the shameless dude even states how the enemy's leader's kinda cute. Hence, he wouldn't mind losing the bet and accompanying her for some time at all. In desperation, Tang Xian ends up offering to let Chu Qing play with her melons so long as he wins the match. This ends up motivating Dude quite a bit, and so he instantly joins the game as well. With his exceptional strength and speed, Chu Qing ends up making a basket in no time. Up next, though, he doesn't attempt to win any longer. Instead, Dude starts acting arrogant and even hands over the basketball to the enemy leader. This forces everybody else's jaws to drop to the ground. As for Zhuo Buchun and his teammates, they simply start cursing Chu Qing for being a traitor. Heck, even Tang Xian assumes that her boyfriend's about to lose on purpose, so he can sleep with some other girl. Chu Qing's next move makes the audience flabbergasted yet another time. As it happens, the wicked dude simply pulls down the enemy leader's pants while he's distracted. And guess what? It's a girl disguised as a boy, so she can help her team win the match. Therefore, although his method was a bit crude and unconventional, Chu Qing nonetheless helped his team win the match, for sure. Cocky Dude therefore walks up to Tang Xian, hoping to tease her about getting his reward. Instead of acting shy, though, Tang Xian simply dares her boyfriend to go ahead and touch her if he wants. Such a bold statement makes Chu Qing lose all his nerve, especially since they're standing in public anyways. Later on, though, Tang Xian summons him for a martial arts competition. Turns out, she lost quite a bit of face after he refused to fondle her melons in public. The girl is still mad as a result and wishes to teach Chu Qing a lesson. As expected, though, Chu Qing emerges as the victor yet another time. Heck, the merciless dude even goes full daddy mode on her by printing several footprints on her butt. Afterwards, the two experience a spark of chemistry and are basically on the verge of making out, before being interrupted by somebody. Guess what? The intruder is none other than the nanny who's been taking care of Tang Xian all these years. What's funny is how he's a male with lipstick on instead of the usual wrinkled old granny. Chu Qing even starts wondering how this male nanny feeds milk to the infant, since that's the primary job of a nanny after all. Anyways, the arrogant-looking nanny calls Chu Qing over for a private chat. Chu Qing decides to give a face to Tang Xian and follows. As expected, though, the annoying old man starts scolding Chu Qing for being a frog that wishes to eat swan meat. He even goes so far as to slap Chu Qing. before taunting how his pretty face is the only thing good about him. This enrages Chu Qing, and so he sends the stupid nanny flying further away. The noise catches Tang Xian's attention, who rushes over to investigate the situation ASAP. Meanwhile, Chu Qing straightforwardly declares that he won't be marrying into the Tang family, like some pretty male bride, even in case Tang Xian herself kneels and begs him to do so. Furthermore, he shaves off half of the impudent nanny's hair as a warning not to mess with him ever again. Tang Xian takes Chu Qing's words to heart and goes quiet all of a sudden. Far away, Chu Qing's fat fiancée Gang Yue is seen sitting in a hall. From the looks of it, she's a green-robed officer from the Jianwu department. Seeing as the color green comes after both purple and blue, Gang Yue, of course, has quite a bit of power and authority in her hands. Anyways, the fat girl soon pays a visit to Chu Qing's home, but finds him missing. However, right before leaving, her eyes spot the page where Chu Qing recently drew a prototype of a cultivation method. Back to Chu Qing, he offers to be Zhuao Bochun and a couple of other students' bosses, and even protect them so long as they obey his orders. Turns out all three boys had just recently received a beating from the infuriated Tang Xian, and their faces are swollen presently. Therefore, all three of them instantly accept Chu Qing's proposal and start calling him their master from now on. Chu Qing later catches up with Tang Xian, who's still feeling grumpy about his earlier words. Chu Qing here clarifies the misunderstanding and states how he won't be married into any girl's family. However, he will marry all of his lovers into his family and stay with them forever from then on. This cheers Tang Xian up, though she soon starts cursing her boyfriend for hoping to marry more than just one girl at a time. Their quarrel is soon interrupted midway by a sudden intruder. Turns out it's the sister of those two cultivators who kidnapped Ye Qianxi previously, and were later butchered by Chu Qing personally. Back in the present, Chu Qing starts to sweat since the newcomer is stronger than him. What's more, he can't even slip away in this situation, or else Tang Xian might end up becoming a hostage here. Poor Chu Qing is thus captured and grabbed by his throat. What's hilarious is how he offers to sleep with her so long as she lets him live. The enemy, of course, does not need to put up with his demands. Instead, she simply drags him away to a deserted corner, wishing to rape him and later on silence him forever as well. Luckily, Gang Yue arrives just then and fires a Wang Chuan bullet at the enemy. Then, while the enemy is distracted, Chu Qing thrusts his sword into her stomach. In such a way, the dead woman is exterminated in a single blow. Gang Yue later pulls back her hood and reveals her true identity as a Jianwu officer to Chu Qing. Furthermore, she recognizes him as the person who annihilated that purple robe officer from a while back. Interestingly though, Gang Yue promises to let Chu Qing off the hook so long as he's able to cure her illness. After all, Chu Qing himself drew the cultivation diagram she discovered earlier in his room. Hence, the boy may just be talented enough to pinpoint her illness as well as cure her. Left with no other choice, Chu Qing examines his so-called fiancée's body. Soon, he learns the reason why she's so fat is that her physique is incompatible with her training method. Before proceeding to cure her, Chu Qing offers to trade his strength-enhancing pills in return for a level 3 Wang Chuan bullet. Finally, the boy gets to work and starts injecting his energy into Gang Yue's body. As a result, the previously fat girl becomes slim and smart in a matter of seconds. Feeling unbelievable, Gang Yue simply hugs Chu Qing as thanks for curing her disease. He even promises to make a new cultivation technique that suits her physique. Alas, it's a time-consuming process and can't be finished in a matter of days or so. What's more, Chu Qing points out how Gang Yue's spiritual roots and a couple of other things got stolen during early childhood. That's probably where her illness stems from. Furthermore, he makes a wild guess about how Gang Yue's beloved family members were the ones who stole her belongings instead of outsiders. Despite knowing its truth, the girl still becomes enraged at having her past trauma be pointed out like that. In her anger, she half-heartedly shoots a bullet at Chu Qing. The boy effortlessly dodges her attack. Meanwhile, Gang Yue herself suffers an internal backlash and has her face covered in blood all of a sudden. Here, Chu Qing warns her to not overexert herself. Otherwise, she may explode thanks to her illness sometime soon enough. Finally, before leaving, Chu Qing promises to be her ally and help her take revenge upon her disgusting family members. In return, Gong Yue can lend him a helping hand with his own Chu family situation as well. Upon reaching home, Chu Qing dials his sister's number to check up on her. Turns out she's busy having an affair with a kid named Jing Tao at the moment. For a while there, Chu Qing teases them both by declaring himself as his sister's ex-boyfriend. Soon, he reveals his true identity though, and hangs up after transferring a heckload of cash into his sister's account. On the following day, Chu Qing summons all 3 of his lackeys. Turns out he's already finished making a cultivation technique suitable for men. That said, there's no need for males to chop away their precious elephants to cultivate properly. Zhao Buchun and the others still have their doubts, of course, but are unable to refuse. Hence, all 3 boys start training as per Chu Qing's instructions. In such a way, Chu Qing too can evaluate the efficiency of his self-created technique. Just then, Tang Xian's mother stops by and summons Chu Qing for a brief chat. The future mother-in-law, of course, doesn't have a positive impression of Chu Qing, especially after hearing of the way he beat up that stupid nanny. The shameless Chu Qing simply kisses Tang Xian in public as a means to annoy her mother. Unfortunately, Ye Qianxi witnesses the whole incident and starts burning with jealousy at the sight of her lover kissing somebody else. Chu Qing soon gets dragged inside a car as a result. Once inside, the poor fellow has all his manly energy drained by Ye Qianxi and is only able to leave after nightfall. His laziness soon disappears, though, after receiving a call from some stranger named Meng Zhui. Said stranger is currently keeping his sister Chu Xiao hostage and may even take her life if he doesn't come to the rescue soon enough. Once there, Chu Qing immediately sends one of the enemies flying after witnessing his sister getting hit. Soon he encounters Meng Zhui herself, who seems to be the owner here. The two exchange a couple of blows in a one-on-one match. Chu Qing soon realizes that Meng Zhui is by far the strongest opponent he's ever met, and there's no way he can beat her fair and square. Dude thus eats one of those strength-enhancing pills, and also summons his mighty sword out of thin air. Even so, Chu Qing's unable to beat Meng Zhui, and soon calls the battle to a halt. He then questions the reason his sister got herself in such trouble. Meng Zhui opens up by revealing how the boy Xu Jiao slept with yesterday was Mayor Jing Lai's son. Therefore, his sister's crime is having slept with someone she shouldn't have dared approach in the first place. As for Meng Zhui herself, she's simply running an errand for the mayor here. Chu Qing then asks whether Meng Zhui can spare his sister's life for a couple of days. Within that time frame, he'll look for ways to convince the mayor to let his sister live. Meng Zhui agrees on the condition that Chu Qing pays her 300 million as well as a bunch of spiritual stones. Last but not least, he also has to spend the night in her bed in return for his sister's freedom. From a normal man's standpoint, such a deal isn't bad at all. Chu Qing, however, resents Meng Zhui for forcing him to sleep with her. The boy has no choice, unless he wishes to see his sister's corpse, of course. Afterward, Chu Qing carries the unconscious Chu Xiao back home. His father then reveals how their mother's company has been suffering lately. Chu Qing later asks Ye Qianxi with investigating the matter. Soon he learns how this is Tang Xian's mother's way of getting back at him after he kissed her daughter in public previously. Xu Xin thus pays a visit to his mother's company and also invites Hua Hua there. The thing is, all computers in the company had been hijacked previously and are still unable to operate. Who better to solve such a dilemma other than his IT genius girlfriend Hua Hua? As expected, Hua Hua can shrug off the tech virus like a mere housefly. Meanwhile, Ye Xianxi still can't help but stare daggers at Hua Hua upon her arrival. Later, in privacy, she even threatens to destroy all other girls standing by Chu Qing's side, so long as she feels like doing so. Afterward, Chu Qing tasks Hua Hua with investigating the mayor's Jing family. Turns out, a granny from the Jing family is the strongest expert here in the city. Meanwhile, the second strongest is Meng Zhui, whom our protagonist met and even slept with earlier. Anyways, Ye Qianxi soon arrives at Hua Hua's place as well, clearly intending to interrupt their session together. Chu Qing realizes her intentions and tells her to buzz off ASAP. This enrages Ye Qianxi, and so she soon comes back while carrying a huge gun in her arms. What's more, the crazy and lawless woman even shoots at Chu Qing. Her intention, of course, isn't to take his life, but simply to injure him enough so that he's unable to make out with Hua Hua any longer. Chu Qing avoids the bullet in a hurry, and later starts yelling at Ye Qianxi for being out of her mind. Soon he calms down, though, after learning how the gun is intended as a gift for him. Such a weapon is surely perfect to contain and shoot Wang Chuan bullets. Ye Qianxi doesn't leave afterward, though, and simply keeps interrupting Chu Qing and Hua Hua's investigation time and time again. This greatly annoys Chu Qing, who finally carries her away on his shoulders and even spanks her. What's funny is how Ye Qianxi tightly clings to him just then and isn't willing to let go no matter what, at least not before making plenty of love with him. Left with no other options, Chu Qing starts indulging his cheeky girlfriend, and together the two make the car bounce for a while. Ye Qianxi finally becomes cheerful after this and even spanks Chu Qing's butt as revenge for when he hit her earlier. Next, she asks why he's unwilling to stay faithful to just one woman like all others. Chu Qing becomes thoughtful here. After all, his dating multiple women in this world is the same as a gorgeous woman having a relationship with multiple males back in the original world. Despite knowing all that, there's no way Chu Qing is willing to become a female pet. Here, Ye Qianxi finally agrees to marry into this family instead. There's a catch, though, since the insane girl desires the whole of Jinmin City as her wedding gift. While others may be terrified by such an enormous and almost impossible-to-fulfill request, the same can't be said for Chu Qing. Instead of hesitating, Dude confidently promises to grant her wish one day soon before finally walking away. Soon after, Chu Qing infiltrates the Xing family mansion and sneaks into Xing Tao's room there. From the looks of it, Xing Tao still has mushy feelings for Chu Qing's sister, and therefore should be on their side in this matter. Anyway, the kid freaks out at first, upon seeing a masked intruder in his room. Next, he starts weeping like some sort of crybaby upon learning of Chu Xiao's recent troubles. Thankfully, the kid finally calms down after a while and starts listening to Chu Qing's plan. Here's the deal. Xing Tao will throw a fake suicide tantrum to distract Granny Wei, who's also the city's greatest martial arts expert. With the old lady out of the way, it will be much easier for Chu Qing to locate and hold a chat with Mayor Zhengli herself. On his way there, though, Chu Qing kidnaps and hides away Xing Tao's sister as a means of insurance. Next, he goes straight to the living room and sits face-to-face with the city's mayor. Unexpectedly, Mayor Zhengli isn't just a powerless civil official. Rather, she's a martial artist herself, one even stronger than Granny Wei, who's supposedly the city's strongest martial artist. Poor Chu Qing soon has his gun-containing Wang Xuan bullets snatched away by the enemy. Next, it's Zheng Li's turn to act surprised after recognizing Wang Xuan as the unique bullet produced by the Gong family from the capital. Chu Qing butts in, revealing how he's engaged to Gong Yue from the Gong family and is at the same time grandson to Xu Anlan from the influential Chu family. Even so, Zheng Li isn't too impressed. After all, Chu Qing's mother is merely trash thrown away by the Xu family. As a result, neither she nor her son have much of a say in the Chu family's internal affairs. Hence, Zheng Li's just about to silence Chu Qing forever when Granny Wei hurries in and announces that the young miss is missing. Zheng Li instantly sends people to search for her daughter, buying Chu Qing some breathing room as a result. On the flip side, Dude keeps on nudging Hua Hua to locate some unknown person ASAP. In the meantime, Chu Qing even cockily declares how he can surpass all of Jinmin City's top 10 masters, Zheng Li included, within 6 months. This seems quite absurd to the mayor since Chu Qing's still a mere teenage boy. As for her, she's already a 4th-grade martial artist. Anyways, Granny Wei finally discovers the young miss lying unconscious under the floor beds in her room. Once again, though, Zheng Li's plan to exterminate Chu Qing is interrupted after he flashes the photo of a mysterious man named Lu Feng at her. The person's quite dear to the mayor and is therefore Chu Qing's ticket to keep on living. Zheng Li finally becomes fed up with Chu Qing's wicked schemes. and soon gives in. In such a way, the mayor not only agrees to spare his sister's life, but also seems willing to marry her son off to Chu Qiao. There is one catch though, which is for Chu Qing's sister to own a big mansion by the end of the year. Only then can she qualify as a suitable wife for Zheng Li's son. Chu Qing happily agrees to the proposal and has Zheng Li jot it down on paper. Later, he even tells her to write him a letter to Meng Shui, telling her to get off his sister's tail for now. Anyways, Zheng Lu, whom Chu Qing smacked in the head and later kidnapped, now shows up all of a sudden. As soon as she sees him, the girl starts cursing Chu Qing for daring to hurt her earlier. Furthermore, she even reveals how she was the one who beat up his sister a couple of days ago. This doesn't sit well with Chu Qing, and so he slaps the ill-mannered girl without prior warning. Seeing this, Granny Wei's about to attack Chu Qing, but Zheng Li stops her. The mayor's been influenced by Chu Qing's charisma, and also admits how her daughter's been spoiled to no end and lacks discipline. Anyways, Chu Qing soon walks away from there, knowing that his sister's safety has been guaranteed for now, and that he can hop back to his normal school life soon enough. This wraps up the current chapter, and we're left pondering several mysteries. First of all, will our beloved protagonist truly be able to surpass Zheng Li and become Zhenmin City's #1 martial artist? Furthermore, will all 4 of Chu Qing's lovers fare well together when forced to share a man, or not? After all, it's quite preposterous for a man to marry more than a single woman in this weird and messed up world. Last but not least, what will become of Chu Qing's arranged marriage agreement with Gong Yue? Simply put, will poor Chu Qing be held responsible by his grandmother Chu Anlan for daring to tear apart the wedding agreement? Anyways, we'll surely pull the curtains and reveal the answers to all questions from above within the next recap of this webtoon. There is one catch though. Simply put, you can either be a subscriber or say goodbye to all future recaps from this manhwa.